guys, happy Tuesday. I thought it was Witchy Wednesday, but it's not. Feeling better, but oh my god, whatever it is, it's settling in my chest, and yeah, it's not very good. So I hope you guys are not getting sick. I hope you guys are well. I hope Australia keeps getting rain. It's devastating. So sorry guys. Okay, now we're gonna go through part 32, Traditional Witchcraft, and it's called The Awful Truth, and it is by Robin Artisan. Love that man. So here we go. So The Awful Truth. It's not awful, but listen. So, alright. Okay, so it's night now, and I was just outside again under my familiar trees, and a wind blew through, manifesting itself as these wind persons do. So this wind soul being was a singer, singing of the darkest and richest things that live in the reality of the soul. In my own soul's experience of it, I felt afraid. A little, the awe-inspiring fear you sometimes get when something or someone of great power and wisdom comes too near you. So, the word awful actually means precisely that. Awful. So, or awe, A-W-E, the awful truth, or the wind, is the awe-inspiring truth about where our ancestral ghosts and gods really are, and and where they dwell, where they still dwell. God, I can't talk. And where they still dwell. So, that wind person went silent and vanished suddenly, and I knew that it was for reminding me about why I'm writing the words here, and thanking me for reminding myself and the others about what exists within the soul and in the wind and sky. I like this. This is interesting. So, the powers that live and exist alongside us want to be known by us. So I don't know why, but I can guess several things. Firstly, they are kin to us, ultimately, as we are all born from the same origin. So this mighty and sacred nature that appears to surround us, but it's also within us. So also our destinies are completely entwined with the sacred beings, seen or unseen. So these two reasons are enough, but it also reminds me to say what must be said when we talk about the other than human populations of sentient life. So they are living their lives, and we are living ours. So all of us in our own fateful and fated duration. So we humans are not the pet projects of the gods or spirits. They don't exist to stop our tragedies or change things in our world that we don't like. This is a culture of, literally, what I don't like. Literally it is. But yeah, I'm guilty of that. So, alright, now, the ancients knew this well enough. So, we can gain from interaction, from the spectral intercourse with the unseen is wisdom, and that is treasure enough, and power enough to seemingly change the things about ourselves and our world that our souls long to change. So some powerful spirits, even ones called gods by our ancestors, have, at rare times in what we call our history, entered directly into the dimension of human life and changed things, tilted the outflowing of our world, gave us gifts, changed the course of human life forever. Why they did it, it's anyone's guess, but our history, our bodies, and our minds bear the marks of their ancient passage. So, that's very odd that, they only came up once. One time. Wow, so for years, that was what I longed for. Conversation with the unseen, with the non-human persons and powers. It didn't take me long to realize that another conversation was blocking me. The ongoing and maniacal dialogue of thought that filled my head and leaped wildly from one thought to another, one concern to another, one word to another word. My habit of living in my thoughts and not consciously living in the actual world that my thoughts were only a tiny part of had become a fungus that grew and overtook my mind and life. So words and thoughts and concepts came between me and what I wanted and needed so much. I begged the unseen to not be silent and to not evade me, to reveal itself to me, but now I know that its silence came from only one place. The fact that all my begging was just me begging my own confusion, for something it could never give me. I finally came up with a way around it. Ominously subtle and pervasive problem, a trick, really, but a sorceress trick. It was my familiar spirit, granted to me on the windy power of the Master of Spirits, which appears sometimes as a woman. Where'd I go? Sometimes as a woman, and at other times as an owl, who taught me this technique, and this very tactic ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back of this beast. And it had nothing to do with literally going around anything, but plunging into the center of something, the center of reality itself. And what is reality? So, reality is what is happening to you at this very sensory moment in all your senses. So you don't have to gain something special to use this cunning bit of sorcery. You have to lose something. You have to lose, just for a while, your memory of your language. It's very interesting stuff. So, most people laugh when I say this, and write it off instantly as impossible. But as I have well learned, it is not impossible, and in fact it even becomes easy if you stick with the technique, and it becomes easy in a surprisingly short amount of time. There is a reason why it should. The most profound level of your mind is geared for this already. So when you were born, you had no language. In a non-verbal way, you experienced reality directly, in a direct and uncensored sensory manner, while you were a baby and a very young child. So this is how you experienced fully every day, up until the time your cognitive linguistic matrix was imprinted into your mind through absorption of enough experience of others using language and the encouragement of your first language teachers. But the deepest layer of you previous to that is nonverbal and certainly non-alphabetic and fully sensitive to the sensory world precisely as the world exists. So the deeper the layer of you has no filter of words, so either spoken or written, it only has pure sensory clarity. So this is the true sorceress sensorium, the chamber within your mind and soul where mysteries are unveiled and beheld naked and free of adulteration. It is the psychic sanctum where the unspeakable things, those things which can never be captured with words, are shown and known in non-conceptual way. So it is a forest and a vault. Sorry, I just got really, really confused because I just seen a tweet from the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Why am I blurry? There we go. No, I'm not blurry. Whatever, I don't care. Okay, so the chamber within your mind and soul, where mysteries, yes, are unveiled and beheld naked and free of adulteration. So it is the psychic sanctum, where the unspeakable things, those things which we can never be captured with words, are shown and known as non-conceptual way. It is a forest and a vault of stars within us. So, and this deeper layer can be drawn from the surface by the technique I have come to call, after all these years, the amnesia play, or more humorously, the amnesia ploy. So bear in mind the main inhibiting factor of our cultural programming, which leads to our habitual spiritual blindness, isn't the spoken word, but the written word, and the ghostly abstractions of mind that it creates. However, this technique cuts to the deepest places before both kinds of language in a direct way. It takes you back to the origins of your mind. So this is really, really interesting stuff. So this is really interesting. Should I go on? Yeah, I should. So lose your mind, regain your senses. So go to an outdoors location where you can really be alone. So this can mean your backyard if you have one. And if you have a reasonable expectation of privacy there without distractions, or it can mean the lonely corner of a park or just the wilderness in whatever capacity you can reach it. As you develop in your ability to use this technique, you'll be able to use it anywhere, but start in seclusion and outdoors. So now here we go. To utilize this technique, you will need to start with your imagination. The imagination being, after all, the aura cast by the deepest divinity, divinely inspired core that glows at our centers and in the center of every iota of flesh or dirt or stone or wood. That same ember radiates subtle and unseen from the core of every iota water of fire, and is fanned bright by the wind before the bellows of the smith. Old Cain himself, the spirit Heth, or the spirit artificer, whose mysterious relationship to human creativity must be spoken of later. That bellows, a device that makes wind, is also that breath in us and in the world. Shortly put, the divine creativity is not apart from the human creativity. The imagination is not a pool of made-up delusions or dreams, but a capacity for creation. That's why I always say imagination is key, literally. So you must focus the power of your imagination, your capacity to create new realities, and invoke a scenario in which you can truly immerse yourself in. A special kind of fantasy, a very believable fantasy in which you can imagine yourself to be the victim of a very powerful amnesia. You have to let yourself slip into the role, suspending your disbelief and letting this imagination come to life. Few of us have a very hard time suspending our disbelief when we absorb into a 2-hour-long movie. We can let movies, even very improbable ones, like silly horror or flashy fantasies, take on a reality in our heads. So for the purposes of absorbing in ourselves, in them and enjoying them, this is far, far easier. Imagination is key. So when you find yourself in a good, safe, and secluded outdoors place, sit down if you can and close your eyes. Take a steady, calming breath and prepare yourself to imagine that when you open your eyes, you are coming out of a coma or just coming back into consciousness after being unconscious for an intermediate while. So in this imagination exercise, you don't know who you are because you have full and total amnesia. You don't know who you are, where you are, nor do you remember what language you speak. If English is your primary language, then for the duration of this technique you cannot think in English nor speak in it. Try to avoid any place that has signs. Seeing English words or spelled out words will make this difficult. To make this work, you really have to slip into the role and accept it full reality. Fully, really let yourself for just 3 or 4 minutes. Really believe it. Go as far into belief as you can. Now, look around. Just look at your surroundings and remember you can't do anything but look and hear and smell and feel and touch. If an oak tree is near you or right in front of you, one of the likely first reactions you'll have to think oak tree when you see it. But if you catch yourself doing this, and everyone does it a lot in the beginning without ever meaning to, simply remember that you can't be thinking oak tree because you don't remember speaking any language, and thus you can't think in that language. You'll have to remember this a few times before your mind finally concedes and goes along with the imaginative exercise. So when you are really doing what you are really doing, oh my God, is using force, the subtle and fluid force of imagination, the astral light, against the calcified and habitual mind of concepts, calcified third eye. It seems like it would be impossible, but when you really think about doing it and actually trying to do it proves that it's easier than first thought. So now here's what Robin Artisan says he's discovered in many attempts at this tactic. So I had discovered that once I really slipped into the role of amnesiac, my sense suddenly became more powerful and vivid. They seemed to reach out and grasp the world in a strong new way, and I seemed to be seeing things again for the first time, like the trees, for instance. They seemed closer to me, somehow more vivid, different. I was having a pure seeing experience, and my eyes were really examining the forms of the trees quite intently, and no words or labels were being automatically generated in my mind to stop the intensity of the exploration. I was fully open to the trees, the sounds, the grasses, the birds I saw. I was filling them all with such an intensity of alertness, a depth of looking and hearing, that I felt tremendous power, tremendous force in it. So, and those things, those birds, trees, grasses, sounds, they came to me too. My eyes and ears didn't just go to them or capture them, they came to me. Each one seemed to be presenting itself to my senses strongly. I saw that this whole process isn't what we think. It isn't a linear process in which your senses go out there to capture things that passively wait. Instead, all things move into one another simultaneously and intensify themselves within one another. So why is this great simultaneous intensity of knowing all things within all things? Because you are not isolated off from this world. You are fully drenched in it and fully a part of it. Nothing is simple and linear, but mixed and full and spiraling, circular, whole. He says, I became lost in the tangle of the senses in the world. My whole mind became the green world around me, and I began to experience something even more amazing, which I will write more about in a moment. I love his words. I mean, his experiences are incredible. So, should you ever find yourself in a situation as this amnesia scenario sets up, truly lost in the world without memory, your senses would rally to try to explore your world immediately, trying to make sense of it, trying to figure out what's going on, and trying to figure out if there's any danger here. So you would be very curious without the words to frame that curiosity or scaffold it. So you would become a sensory explorer, immediately in tune with the environment in a very profound way. The deep parts of you, the hyper-alert animal senses, the bodily organism in tune with its entire environment, all would emerge fully to guide you through the situation. So you are forced by this technique to really see and experience the world, and not fall back on thinking in a linguistic way around the world. Your internal analytical dialogue, I hate it, is silenced, finally, and only your senses remain to inform you. So as our senses really sharpen and open up, you discover a piercing gaze of the witch, the first taste of the sorcery of the senses, which, he says, I will explain upon more later. So, the old hagtessa, I like that, the old hagtessa, who was feared in the past for her disturbing eyes, her burning gaze, gives us a folkloric manifestation of the sorceress, who was able to really see, and she missed nothing. You will discover when you really look, more than just ordinary sight begins to rise up in you. So, and with luck, this is what you will be able to accomplish using this technique, but you will simultaneously be accomplishing much more, because when you really see purely, or hear the birds and wince suddenly very purely, without the conceptual mind to categorize it all away with words for you, something subtle and then later forceful and dramatic begins to happen, something beyond your new vividness of the senses. So the true core tradition that stands behind all sorcery is found in the senses and the use of the senses, and this tradition is full of two things in abundance. Ironically, it is full of subtlety. Ironic that such a sense-bound and tangible art should also deal with subtlety, but it does. The depths of the senses are the gateway and to real subtlety. And this art is bound up with paradoxes. Fair is foul and foul is fair. Paradoxes that Bard himself once gave voice to. Using this technique, you are literally forgetting everything to remember more, to re-remember, to put the members of another body back together again. Your body, or sorceress clarity of the sense animal that you are. You are losing your mind, literally. You are losing the conceptual mind, and thereby regaining your senses. So forgetting is remembering, loss is gain. And now you are delivered to the core of the sorcery. That, he says, I've woven into these words you're reading now. Because using this written word, the very thing that helps to create a mind that can't experience sorcerous reality, I have undone the power of the written word, turning the power of words against themselves. I have used words to show you a way beyond words. written or otherwise. Sorceress irony. That is, I mean, profound, seriously interesting and profound, and I love that. So, they leap for my soul is what we will go through next, which is really neat. It's more about the amnesia ploy. So, what do you guys think about that? I like it. I love it. I really do. I love anything like this. So, alright. Well, I hope you guys have a great day. Yeah. Just everybody have a great day, and let me know what you think about that. Do you guys do any kind of, like, practices like that? Anything? Let me know below. I love you all very much, and thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Witchy Wednesday. Oh, my love. I'm so tired. All the way from Venus. All the way back down. Alright, guys. I love you all very much, and thank you guys so much for always watching and commenting and being just amazing. Don't forget. Alright, now I have a new profile on Instagram. It's cap, all lowercase. So it's follow me, because it's going to be fun. I'm going to do an experiment here. So I am Mrs. MRS Norma, Norma Bates, Bates 1, all cap or all lowercase on Instagram. Follow me. Norma is going to have some adventures going on, and her crazy son, Mr. Norman Bates, is also on there, so we will see what happens with that. It's pretty interesting. So, alright guys, I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And everybody have a good day, and I love you all.